Hey, Corinne.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Hi, John.
Well, yeah, I'm much better. I was thinking about you. How are you?
Me?
I was thinking about you. Thinking about you, yes.
Excellent. I trust it was good thoughts. I'm good.
Oh, absolutely. Good. That's great.
It's been a little chaotic here. We're doing a little reno, new flooring, so
Woo.
it's an experience. But good. It's going well.
Uh, yeah, I've been there, done that. I understand.
Nice.
Especially when you have kids, right?
Well, they don't live here, so that was a blessing.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
why are you doing better? Were you
The
not doing well?
renovations that, yeah, I wanted to, I should have been more forthright with everyone,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, when I came back from Shanti Mandir, sometime that week, I got bit by a brown recluse spider. That's what they think. We never saw it.
Oh,
And I mean,
yeah.
it just, started a little big, it kept getting bigger and bigger. And it was like, about that big on my leg. And after about 2 weeks, my wife just pressed me hard and she wanted me to go see the doctor. And I said, look, why am I going to go see the doctor? I'm not going to take the antibiotics. So anyway, I did go to the doctor and, went through the whole thing. And he was a really sweet doctor. And, he drew a nice big circle around it. And then he drew another line. He said, if it gets up to there, he said, you should take the antibiotics. And so a few days, went by and it did get a little better, but no, it did grow. It continued to grow.
Yeah.
And it went past the line. But you could see it was breaking up. You could see it was breaking up. Anyway, to make a long story short, but we didn't, I never did take the antibiotics. And so the external wound, it's healed up pretty well. I mean, in a couple more weeks, by the time I go to Shanti Mandir, you won't even hardly be able to see it. But the internal was the most devastating. And finally, about a week and a half ago, I go to this chiropractor he's more than a chiropractor, he's a healer and all that. But I go to him every week when I'm here. And well, I've got, never mind. But I mean, it's a good thing. It keeps me dialed in and keeps me adjusted properly and many things. So he said, you've got chemical PTSD. I said, wow, that sounds really heavy. He said, that is heavy. And he said, what's happened was that the powerful toxin from the spider and just turned my nervous system upside down. It put my nervous system in hyperdrive, and it was just, the sympathetic nervous system was just going crazy, and it was just upsetting all the other systems of the body. Nothing was functioning properly. It was like I had a fever for almost a month, a low-grade fever. And he made some adjustments and stuff, and everything changed at that point. It was just like I started going up. I lost 15 pounds in the whole process because I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't eat anything. I lost my appetite. Definitely that has come back. Thank God.
You can't really afford to lose
it
that
was
kind of
it was
weight.
a devastating, really devastating. Exactly. I mean, I've been 175 pounds for 40 years. I never gained or lost a pound. And I lost 15 pounds. So it was pretty devastating. It was pretty devastating. So I'm starting to recover my endurance and my stamina and all that. Starting. It's gonna take me a month or so to get really back to baseline. Probably a lot more for the weight. It is starting to come back, a pound or two, but I'm stabilized at 160 anyway.
Wow.
So that's my story. I should have told you guys because it really has impacted me tremendously. I mean, I've barely been able to do anything. I had no output really, except for the satsang with you guys for almost a month. It was just so devastating. It was terrible.
Wow.
So, it's all part of the physical body, lugging it around and.
Deviani got bit by a brown recluse years ago, and it was just took her out, and it was huge. The thing just grew on her calf, like huge.
Yeah, she did tell me about it because I told them, I've been meeting with the course staff there, the 3 or 4 of them, and Deviani did tell me that because I told them, of course, what was going on. And she said, well, it was devastating.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
you
good to
never
hear that
know.
you're doing better.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great learning experience. Well, everything is for me, but I got so low. My Shakti was so low, like the core Shakti that I'd always had in my whole life. And it gave me a sense of how the dying process, really, really works. Because I've been contemplating, longevity and dying or not dying for a couple of decades now. I'm really into longevity. And meaning adding more life to your years, not necessarily more years. Of course, naturally. And so this was a beautiful experience in that regard. And it really confirmed a lot of what I feel about the whole dying process. And the whole how ultimately what happens is your Shakti just keeps contracting and contracting, and it gets less and less, depending on what kind of a person you are. If you're a yogi, then there's a whole nother thing that's going on. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience, and I learned deeply. And of course, we're going through, some of you may or may not know, I know John was there. I saw him yesterday, and of course, Jane. We're going through Sally Kempton's transition. Her final transition is today. It's like the last of 13 days. And she and I were very, very close. And it's been, and I'm in a number of like 2 or 3 different sanghas that are part of her life. And so it's been a lot of activity at this point. And so, gives us an opportunity to reflect even more on, what are we doing with this life? Are we optimizing and maximizing our experience in every moment of every day? And just trying to maintain that awareness and maintain the connection to the source. So it's a great opportunity. That's the way I look at everything. It's all just a great opportunity.
It can be really a challenge for me in my experience. When I remember in 1999, I had a very bad virus, and I was very disappointed because I couldn't hold on to that connection with my mantra that easily. And I was thinking, I really want that when I'm leaving the body, and want that connection. But when there's physical stuff going on, sometimes for me, I don't find it that easy to keep that connection.
Well, that's beautiful. That's exactly so the way I look at that, what you just said, very similar, exactly as my experience was. It showed me that, like, I know I don't want to be in that state in the final exiting process. So, and that is one of the most fundamental understandings to have. And so how do you do that? Again, I've read a lot of primarily what Abhinavagupta has said about the exiting process. And some people say that it's what you think about at the very last moment. But Abhinava says, no, that's not the way it works. He said, what you have contemplated your whole life is what drives your transition. So that really made me double down on daily practice, maintaining that 24/7 awareness, because at the end, that's what you're going to be able to rely on. So the more intensively we practice now, then at the end, when the physical frame and even the mind starts to weaken, then you're going to be able to go back to that core essence that you have delved into and maintained contact with throughout. And eventually, as yogis, you will just merge into that, and the transition will be very smooth. The body will just slow down, slow down, slow down, and gone. So yeah, and I was talking to Sally a few months ago. We spoke a few months back, Sally Kempton, and she knew she was dying. I mean, she'd been fighting her physical condition for at least 2 decades that I was very well aware of. And she said, I don't really want to make a big deal out of the fact that I'm dying. I don't want people to be relating to me and thinking about, well, Sally's dying. Yeah, I'm dying, but that's not the point. That's just something that's going through. That's what the body is going through. That's the process that the body's going through. At some point, she had a lot of pain and stuff. I don't think, I hope not at the end, but I mean, she struggled a lot. I mean, she was on oxygen and all. Even when we spoke, she was on oxygen. And so, it was kind of just dragging the body along. And so, at some point, what happens is the final death process, when the body dies, you just decide that, you're tired of it. You just, why drag that around? You are consciousness. As a yogi, you are consciousness. You're connected with that source. So why do I want to keep dragging this body along? Let me go out and enjoy the bliss, So, assuming you've already grappled with, the whole fear of losing the physical form, have felt with well in your lifetime when you have good, clear mental faculties. So, yeah. That's good though. Thank you, Jane. That's good sharing, because that is the great, most fundamental lesson of the whole dying process, is to realize that when you get to the end and the body does start to get more and more frail, and hopefully the mind doesn't wane. Sally was clear as a bell all the way to the very end. I mean, she didn't waver a bit. The body was torturing her, but her mind was just like that. I mean, it was totally stable, totally stable. I mean, her energy, the physical energy was being challenged. I mean, we could only talk for 20 or 30 minutes at a time when we spoke. I mean, we couldn't have an hour, 2-hour conversation, which we often did. But so yeah, the physical energy just starts to dissipate. And also, you know, you're not nourishing yourself properly, because most of the time you lose your appetite. That's one of the things at the end. You don't have this great robust appetite, you know, as you're getting ready to die. You know, it's like, no, you know, better to just enjoy some nice juices and transition smoothly. So anyway, that's that. I just wanted to share with you guys what I've been going through for the last month. I am on the upswing. Everything seems to be going in the right direction now, but it was definitely a challenge for me for the last month or so. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts and comments before we dive in here?
I'm glad you shared with us. I appreciate it.
Yes, and as I was saying earlier, I think maybe before you came on, Jane, that I should have said something to you guys earlier. And yeah, I'm not much of I'm not a whiner. And so, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, you know, woe is me and all that. You know, I'm just not that kind of person. And Sally was that way too, you know. And so I might have been influenced by her a little bit. And I just, you know, but I reflected on it later and I thought, gosh, these are my people. You guys are my real family. And so I mean, I never even shared with my brother, my younger brother, who we're as close as ever. I still haven't told him anything about this. I mean, he lives 5 hours away. We talk, you know, once or twice a month. But, you know, he's been busy. I've been busy. And so my real family, though, you guys are my real family. And that's really the way I look at it. I am focused on my spiritual well-being, and I want to surround myself by those that are interested in their spiritual well-being first and foremost. And that, of course, in our system involves the physical form and the mental and all the different aspects of our life. We want to be fully whole, awake, and aware, and taking care of those things. So thank you for listening, you all. Anybody can say anything they want right now, but thank you for that, Jane. I appreciate it.
I want to say thank you so much, Mark, also for sharing, because what it gives at this point is it gives insight and knowledge and teachings is how to navigate when one's body does start to challenge or you go through something with regards to the focus of spirituality and how to stay connected or how to navigate that. And so I tremendously appreciate it. And I tremendously appreciate you sharing about Sally Kempton. I was not able to be there yesterday because I was in a training, but I have also have been contemplating a lot about death, about, you know, longevity, how much longer I have on the planet. And so all of this is very dear to my heart and relevant about that process of what death is going to be and how to prep for it with regards to spiritually so that I can be as connected and as strong as I can going into that process and understanding what the body is going to go through. So any insight is tremendously, tremendously appreciated.
Thank you, Sally. And that's the spirit and the intention behind my sharing. Because hey, I mean, we're all pretty close to the same age, or we're in that same kind of generation. So Sally lived to be 80, in spite of the fact that she had huge health challenges. I didn't find out till recently that she had polio when she was a child. So I mean, she had been afflicted physically for decades. Most of her life, she was afflicted in some way, except just kind of in that peak period, you know. When you're in your 20s and 30s, you know, you think you're invincible. But yeah, as the years wore on, it became, the toll became incredibly onerous for her. But again, she never went on. She traveled more extensively than almost anybody that I know in terms of the teachers. She was everywhere, and she just felt like if there's an opportunity to serve, she was going to do it. In fact, she even, last time we talked, she said, they want me to go over to Omega to do this program. No, she said, they want me to do a program at Omega. I said, well, you have to go there? And I mean, she's already on oxygen, you know, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And she said, no, it's going to be kind of a Zoom thing. And I said, think about it. If you feel like you've got the energy, because I know how she is. I said, you know, just think about it. She said, I got to let them know by tomorrow. And I said, well, just look at where you are and just feel it out. She declined. She didn't go. So that was kind of the last straw, and I knew. I mean, I was happy to hear that she didn't do it, because she was in no state to do that. I mean, the energy, I mean, like I said, we had a 30-minute conversation, and that was just extremely taxing. I was apologetic, of course, but I had the same experience with Girjananda, another very dear, close friend of mine, right towards the end of her run. And, you know, 20 or 30 minutes was about all she had. And that's about what you get. 20 or 30 minutes, and then you got to take a nap. But everybody's got different karma. Everybody's got different physical karma. In my experience, I had a lot of athletic injuries. I mean, different kinds of accidents, from plane crashes to motorcycle crashes. So, I mean, I've been through a lot. My body has been through a lot. And I've been a vegan for, you know, 40 plus years. So it's not like I'm living high on the food chain. You know, I'm living extremely low on the food chain. And, you know, I live very close to the edge on most times. I mean, not most times, all times. But by design, as part of the yogic tradition and the practice, is never take more than you need. And so that's one of the yamas. And that's something that I take very, very seriously. And so, you know, it helps purify the vehicle. So we all have karma, and these various practices and observances, in fact, Patanjali calls them the great vow. The yamas is what he calls the great vow. It starts with ahimsa. Don't get me started on this, because that is, everybody will be uncomfortable by the time I'm done. But that's something I take very, very seriously. And as a yogi, you live by those observances. They're just in the background, you know, we don't talk about it. It's not that kind of a thing. But everybody makes their decisions on how they want to address the circumstances in their life. Now, if I had if I really wanted to get my body in great shape, like after this thing, I'd be eating salmon and eggs and all kinds of dairy and stuff, and I'd be back to my normal weight within a couple of weeks. It's not even a consideration for me. You know, I'm just going to continue to do the best I can with what I've got. Yes, I am eating more frequently. I used to eat once, maybe twice a day, a little snack or something. Is that second one, but now I'm trying to eat as much as I can. In fact, if I wasn't talking to you all, I'd be eating right now. It's just, I just know I need more calories, but I've known that. I mean, I never get 2,000 calories, which I think is supposed to be the minimum standard. Most Americans get way more than that, but so yeah, most people are trying to get rid of, eat less calories, and I'm always trying to eat more calories, but the right kind, not just like a bag of potato chips. And you know, that's just like insane, you know, for me. And I'm not being critical. Anybody can eat the bag of potato chips they want, but I try to be very conscientious and mindful of each decision that I make in my life, from, you know, how I breathe, when I breathe, to what I put in my mouth and what comes out of my mouth. And so, you know, every aspect of your life, as you become more and more awake and mindful, then everything takes on a different proportion. And there's a different reality when you realize that everything is connected. And then you start to experience that everything is connected. And so you have to look at it, and it's a challenge, because the challenge is that we don't become hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up. We have to be kind to ourselves. We have karma. Hey, that's why we're on the planet, and we're working through it. And we all have circumstances. Some of them are almost inextricable. I mean, if you're married and you realize that, you know, you have to do things that you just don't quite feel comfortable with. These are things that you have to negotiate, you know, and you can't just, you're not living in a cave somewhere. We all interact with humanity, our families and our friends and our social structures that we have, whether we have a great big social life. I'm not suggesting that, but anything, you know, we all have families, we all come from families, and we have these kind of relationships. So we have to pay attention to these things and do the best we can as we continue to purify them through our mindfulness. Any thoughts that anyone would like to share on that? Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this here. Moving right into Baba's commentary. I want to say one thing though, since I already did kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. When we get done with the Pratyabhijna, I would really like to revisit some very selected portions of Patanjali that are extremely relevant to actual practice, the meditative practice. And I think that you all will really appreciate it. And if you just kind of trust me on that, actually, if you really look at it, you can see non-dual awareness in Patanjali, but you have to really, really look at it properly. And there are multiple levels of samadhi that I'd like to lay on the table for you so you can understand where you are in the process and how you can integrate various insights into your daily meditative practice. They're scattered all over. So what I want to do is I want to show them to you in groups so that you can see them very easily. You can identify them. So I don't know which translation, but I will mention that to you. I'll let you know. I'll post the thoughts on that. If you all are open to that, then I would like to do that, because I really think you all will appreciate it a lot. I wanted to broach the subject a little bit in the advanced course at Shanti Mandir, and the other teacher said, "Oh, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that." I said, "Well, okay, that's cool. They want light, and but I'm not interested in light for you guys. I want to give you everything that I possibly can, because I think you guys are ready for it. You want it." There's Nicholas. Get the thumbs up with Nicholas there. Yeah, I mean, so you guys are really special, and I think you're very, very serious, and I really appreciate that. So I want to do everything I can to lay it on the table. And you can, again, it's like the smorgasbord. You don't have to eat everything on the tables, but I think you'll find the resonance in the various aspects that have been laid down. The Patanjali Yoga Sutras is an advanced treatise. That's not a 101 treatise. Assumption that goes into what Patanjali wrote. And so that all has to be taken into consideration. So I want to unpack it in the 21st century with you guys. So if you all will allow that and trust me on that, I'd really like to do it. Let's continue with the Pratyabhijna. Pratyabhijna, you know what that means, right? Recognition. Recognition. And that's what this is all about. That's what Chimaraja is trying to convey to us. He wants us to recognize. And that's where Baba comes from too. Again, Baba didn't comment on all 20, not because he didn't have time or wasn't interested. No. He's giving here why I think that these selected commentaries, he's giving us the essence of the teaching, of recognition that he wanted us to understand. And so I take that very seriously. When Baba makes a selected comment or a selected scriptural reference, there's a lot behind that there's a lot of nuance in that. So he selected Sutra number 9. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. So I will read it. It's not as extensive as the last one. The last one was the most extensive one that he commented on. This is not. This is pretty straightforward. So his translation, I'm going to just go with that, is universal consciousness, with chitti being in brackets. So universal consciousness, he's referring to chitti. because of concentration, becomes an ordinary being, subject to limitations. And then he goes on to unpack that. And essentially what he's going to share here is that the nature of a bound soul is one who lives in a state and the awareness of limitation. And the way to be free is simply let go of that. So we'll talk about it. So here's Baba's commentary. The truth is that the highest Lord, pure consciousness, lives in absolute freedom. He is all-pervading and all-knowing. By his glorious Shakti, he can do whatever he likes to at any time. If an emperor wants to enact the role of an ordinary constable, he just puts aside his pomp and majesty, his elephant and horses, and plays a commoner for a while. In exactly the same way, when the Supreme Lord, who is pure consciousness, sheds his undifferentiated state and accepts differences, then his unlimited power of will, knowledge, and action appear to have shrunk. This is the state of ordinary people who are subject to limitations. By contraction of his power of action, the omnipotent one can only accomplish certain things. In this diminished state, he's dependent on his organs of action, and he becomes involved in performing good and bad deeds. This is karma mala, the limitation of the power of action. There are three such limitations. He's referring to the malas, which is terms of art in Kashmir Shaivism. He's going to briefly. So in brief, anavamala is the limitation by which an awareness of imperfection, so alien to the essential nature of Shiva, arises in his perfect being. Mayamala involves a sense of differentiation, of seeing things as different from one another and from himself. That arises in the all-pervading Lord, the one without a second. Karmamala is an entanglement with good and bad actions, noble and evil undertakings. When Shakti contracts, the highest consciousness becomes bound by these three limitations. Then the Lord experiences his primal power of omniscience, omnipotence, perfection, everlastingness, and all-pervasiveness in a reduced condition. This is poverty of Shakti. It is the experience of all creatures caught in the transmigratory cycle. The grace of the Guru rids the aspirant of his apparent Shakti poverty, and his limited power begins to evolve. As soon as the great Kundalini, Shiva's own Shakti, unfolds completely, Shiva once again experiences himself as Shiva, and the bound individual becomes the Supreme Lord. In the heart, the awareness, I am imperfect, dissolves into I am perfect. This is the state of one who is liberated while living. one who reveals unceasingly, one who revels unceasingly in the awareness, I am Shiva. Any thoughts? No thought state is the best.
But it sort of made me think about the conversation we just had, in that I'm always Shiva, but it's my awareness of that that fluctuates. And I want to be more steady.
Absolutely. And the other thing that Baba is referring to here is how does this infinite, expansive awareness of Shakti, goddess awareness, Shiva, one and the same, how does this awareness get contracted in the individual? This is important to understand. The individual gets contracted when we identify with the external, something as other. And that identification is what contracts the infinite nature of reality. Reality doesn't change. It just contracts in the image that you are projecting in your mind that you have become attached to or averse to. This is the simple understanding. It's our attachment to this physical universe that keeps us bound. We can continue to enjoy and revel in the abundance and beauty of this universe as long as there's no attachment. And the joy and the rasa of the experience of this infinite diversity will be so much richer when there's no attachment or there's no aversion. It's just a beautiful, beautiful unfoldment of diversity. When you walk out into the garden, it's just this beautiful, diverse, the butterflies and the wasps and all the different flowers and the various plants that you see there. They're all there interplay and you feel them, how beautiful that is. But there's no attachment there. There's no attachment there. Or if there is, then it becomes very contracted. Oh, that squirrel shouldn't be eating those seeds that I planted yesterday. Oh, yes, this lovely squirrels. I like the chipmunks up there at Shanti Mandir. They're better. They're cute and everything. They don't seem to be much of a problem. Now squirrels, woo, my goodness. They're always looking for trouble. When I was a boy, I had my next door neighbor raised a pet squirrel for a while till it finally bit him. And, it's okay, that's enough. But that squirrel was just always making trouble. Okay, sorry about that little little tangent there. Any comments though on that, you guys?
What struck me when I read this, I mean, it was incredibly beautiful, because to me it really explained the process of coming into this reality, into this human body. And as you were talking, Mark, as listening to you instead of rereading it, and it's like, if I could come into the acceptance of these limitations, really come into the acceptance and understanding of these limitations, seems to me that would be a key to being able to live within them, but not bound by them. To allow, in the process, I know the Kundalini process has already started within me as far as expansion. But the other word in here that he used, that Baba used, that struck me again, was Shakti poverty, which I loved that, which was the same thing. And I don't remember which one you were talking about it that really hit me. And it might have been, I don't think it was the differentiation, but I can't remember which one it was. If I could just come to accept that this is what this is in this physical body, that that's the process, then it seems to me a key to tremendously opening the other side.
Absolutely. Sally, that is so beautifully said. And I can feel it. I can feel it when you say it. And yes, the truth of the matter is, if we can just sit with what is and just fully and completely be at peace with what is, we all have karma. And we have to first and foremost be comfortable and at peace with seeing it as it is. Only then can we begin the process of release and letting it go. We will let it go from the place of peaceful acceptance. And then it will dissolve very naturally and painlessly. It's perfect. Everything is perfect as it is right here, right now. We just have to be comfortable with that fact. Oh, you hit the nail on the head, Sally. In fact, I was thinking that maybe at this juncture, unless anyone has a burning desire to say something at this moment, I was thinking this might be a nice time to let's do a little meditation here on just exactly what we're talking about being able to just sit peacefully and open ourselves to full acceptance of what is right now. No judgment. No judgment at all. Just being comfortable with seeing what is. Can we do that? Yeah. Let's do a 20-minute meditation and really dig in. So here again, the most important aspect is the relaxation piece. We must be comfortable in a deep relaxation. Relaxation is the key to this whole process. And it will continue to deepen. As you sit comfortably, quietly, and peacefully, invoke the peace of the present moment. Allow yourself to relax into the present moment with no judgment whatsoever, just relaxing. Keep going into the body. Keep going into the body and invoking a deeper relaxation. Always maintaining the awareness of the inner body. I don't want to shake anybody loose. I'm just setting it up, my alarm here. Okay. So how did you experience that? Were there some openings there? Insights? Okay. Well, did you enjoy it? Yeah. Is is that kind of meditation anything like what you normally do? Or how is that different than what you normally do? Or what do you normally do? Yes, John.
Normally, because I meditate early in the morning, I don't do any contemplation. And this particular meditation, because it followed such a heavy contemplation of the words, I was able to get into my quiet place. And it just took me into a very, just took me to a place of peace that usually doesn't happen in the morning. I think I'm going to maybe start adding in some scripture before I meditate now, because it sort of resets my mind frame from a general life to a spiritual life.
That's very good. That's a very good sharing. I appreciate that. I'd like to just comment on that a little bit. That's the meditation first thing in the morning is always what I recommend, of course. But if you get a good night's sleep, which I hope everybody does, that meditation in the morning, you'll find that you have a lot of energy and mental energy. And so sometimes that can be challenging depending on what kind of meditation that you're doing. And so you have to adapt the kind of meditation you're doing for the mental state that you're in. So just to be clear, first thing in the morning is a powerful leverage for the rest of the day. But at the same time, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. Every single day is unique, and your state is unique. Your mental capacity, your energy level, it's unique every day. And so you have to adapt your meditation to your state. So before I get into some of the detail on that, just to give you some examples, I want to just say that oftentimes it's nice if you can fit it in to do a meditation towards the latter part of the day. After a lot of that, assuming you do the meditation in the morning and then a second meditation in the afternoon, maybe not as long, but that second meditation will be a very, very different kind of meditation, because your mental state and your energy level will be very, very different. You will be depleted mentally because you've gone through the day. I mean, if you've done anything except, if you've got out of your room, you're going to have drawdown on your energy. As a yogi, you should always be monitoring your energy level. And you should see and recognize where you're getting drawdowns and try to transmute those into the awareness and get back into the source energy, which will revitalize you in the moment. If you allow yourself to go out, being drawn out, meaning your Shakti is being drawn out, then it will dissipate. But if you reverse that just by your awareness and focus on the source, the witness, however you hold that, that will continue to maintain it and stabilize the energy, so you won't get that so dramatic drawdown. Any questions on that? Because I'm going to double back and give some examples of morning situation. Okay. So in morning situation, what I mean for exactly is, let's say we're using mantra. Everybody has a mantra. How do you use mantra? That's the key. So sometimes it's completely just okay and very powerful just to repeat the mantra, just repeating the mantra almost like a rote repetition. But your focus is intense on the mantra, on the essence of the mantra. If you have the capacity, you can take that to another level. You open your awareness and you sit in just peaceful awareness, as this exercise was trying to invoke. Just simple, peaceful awareness. There's no mantra, there's nothing. And then you bring your mantra forward on the screen of that awareness, so as repeating the mantra, but the primary focus and attention is on the witness. And the highest form of that meditation is when you realize that the mantra, the essence of mantra, whatever the words are, is irrelevant. The essence of mantra is one and the same as the witness awareness. And just holding that, you are dialed into the source directly at that point. So that's just some examples of what I'm talking about in terms of the way you adjust your meditation. And you'll also notice that as you proceed through the minutes of your meditation, things will change. It's one of the reasons I started many years ago to time. I have timed intervals, 20-minute intervals in my meditation. So every 20 minutes I get a dong. And I know now that in the first 20 minutes, there's many different things that go on, because that's sort of an adjustment and a calibration period. That's where I'm determining by the nature of my awareness and my Shakti, whatever energy is available there, how I'm going to approach the meditation. And then in the second 20-minute phase, then the meditation starts to crystallize. In other words, I've already determined in the first phase how I'm going to proceed based on my current state. And then it crystallizes and becomes very, very stabilized. And then as you move into the next 20-minute phase, you'll notice that you have a tremendous amount of power and your energy has lifted, especially if you're really having what we would call a good meditation, meaning you've stabilized your awareness because you're drawing now on source. You're connected to source, and that's giving you lift that you will experience. And then, of course, you could just take that right on and just continue on the next 20 minutes. And it goes through a lot of different evolutions, but the major impediment is that most people can't sit for more than an hour. I mean, they just can't sit. Maybe an hour and 15 or 20 or whatever. They can't sit comfortably for that period. So that's why, and it's recommended by those that are very, very serious meditators, both Buddhists and yogis, is to break your meditation up. An hour is the kind of generally accepted. It was what Baba recommended as sort of your baseline to try to achieve that, where you've conditioned your body and toned the body through asanas and various other types of exercises and all, so that you can sit comfortably for an hour. then to come back on a second meditation for, another hour or 20 minutes or whatever you can do. And then throughout the day, you can just drop in for 5 or 10 minutes and just do what we did today, is just open the channel through relaxation. And you'll see tremendous lift in that because you're connected to the source, your source awareness. So these are just some ideas that I wanted to share with you so you get some sense. And you can explore. Many of you, maybe you have some ideas too. Please share. Comment or whatever.
For me, I find it's important to have continuity. So like the breaking up of the meditation, I didn't really realize, I didn't think of it that way, but I guess that's what I've been doing without knowing it. I kind of end the day with meditation. As soon as I get up, before I even move out of the bed, I start in another meditation. Yeah, and I'm not aware that I was doing this in these time periods, but that's what was happening. Well, then, I'll have my main morning meditation, which now recently, now that you mentioned the pranayama back there, I don't know what has happened, but I've been looking at the clock after the meditation and it's getting closer to 2 hours. And I didn't even know it. And so this to me says, Matt, go with it. So I'm just going to keep going with it. It's
100%.
happening. I'm going with it.
100%. When the Shakti is really moving, There's only one meditation. In the Siddha path, I always say there are two sort of forms of meditation. When the Shakti is very dynamically and dramatically awake, like in your case, Nicholas, there's nothing but just focus on what she's presenting. And she is the focus of the meditation. There's nothing else. And when the Shakti is not moving that dramatically, which is the case for most people, then you engage in these various nuanced practices to explore the portals and the access points that are being offered to you by the Shakti. So again, there's no bad meditation. The only meditation, the bad meditation, is one that you don't sit for. So there are many ways to dance here, and all of it is completely legitimate. At the end of the day, it's all about releasing the karma that we are currently carrying around with us. And so whatever you can do to become seated in the place of pure awareness and release whatever else is going on, that is the great path. Let me be clear that it's not a question of controlling the mind. I'm sorry, I didn't see that, Karuna, but I will. But it's about controlling the mind will come, and it is part of the yogic process. But the most important and fundamental aspect is to control how you relate to the mind. That is the deal. How you relate to the mind. Until you're clear, absolutely clear about that, all else is secondary. Once you've mastered how to relate to the mind, you're on the way home. Okay. Karuna.
I'm thinking about what you said about what is different about this meditation versus like our daily meditation. And each morning is different, but the mind is much more active first thing in the morning, so it's different. What I noticed with the group though is there's a synergistic effect that happens when we're doing a meditation within this group, or pretty much any group of experienced meditators. We all elevate each other, and the energy combines and takes us to a different level, deeper, more in this particular case, more dynamic. Like during this meditation, I got to a place where it was like so still and sweet, and it was like, oh wow. But then all of a sudden the fire hit, and there was you've mentioned that fire before, and I normally only get that fire when I'm at the ashram. But I just felt like almost like on fire. And yeah, that doesn't normally happen in my individual meditations. Not that it can't happen, it just is more common in a group. What's up with the fire business, Mark? I've wondered that for years.
Well, I'm not going to take any credit, but you mentioned it. So the synergistic effect of the Sangha is incredibly powerful. And particularly when you dial into it, in other words, you open your awareness to the fact that we are all interconnected and we are all affecting each other. We're raising the vibrational field. When you open to that, it enhances that. Anything you put awareness to increases its power. So as you open to that possibility, then maybe I should say, I misspoke. When you open to that reality, then it enhances it. With respect to the fire, this Sangha is a transmission vehicle. This is the transmission vehicle of our lineage. And we are all fully engaged in that. And at different times, that's the way the Shakti works. You never know when the Shakti is going to knock on your door and say, hey, let's go for a ride. And sometimes it just never ends. What's happening here is you all are awakening. We already have clearly established the fact that everybody's Kundalini is awakened. And that awakening process is continuing, it's escalating. And so the channel is opening. And so those kind of experiences are just commonplace. And you will more than likely, if you continue to practice with intensity, you will more than likely see those experiences expand as your awareness continues to expand. Last night, I went to, I had a dinner. After all that I did yesterday, I had some guests that came in town from Hawaii. They're old friends of mine. And when I was with them quite a number of years ago, I taught them how to meditate. It was her and her husband. We just sat at their home, and they had been asking me for years. And finally I said, okay, we're going to do it. And she shared with me, she hadn't shared with me what her experience was. At the end of it, I think she was so, well, particularly after the sharing yesterday, she was so blown away by what was happening. And she just didn't know quite how to contextualize it and even articulate it. But now it's been quite a number of years, been like 10 or 15, maybe 20 years. And she shared with me last night. And she had the most profound experience of the Shakti and this opening and this expansiveness. She became the whole universe. And I'm just, she had no context for it. But now at least she could articulate it. She didn't understand what was going on. She hasn't had any courses or any lessons or read any books or anything like that. She's a very, to be fair, her mother's a curandera, a real curandera. So she's already coming through. She came into this world on a real high note. And that's the environment she's Peruvian. And so her mother and her environment kind of elevated the vibrational field of her life. And she's very dialed into nature and stuff like that. But That was her experience. So these kinds of things, and again, this is the direct transmission. The Shakti of Shiva comes and takes care of whatever is necessary when we prepare ourselves and open the channel. That's it. So that was beautiful. That was beautiful, Karuna. Thank you for sharing that. We've covered a lot of ground here today, so I just want to make sure. Anybody else want to comment, question, share? Okay. We're going to go back to Baba's commentary. There was something else I wanted to share with you about Baba's commentary.
Can you talk about the malas a little bit? Because I'm aware of them. I feel like the Kundalini is working on whatever, dissolving, releasing them. And my ego wants to speed up the process, I guess. That's not the way it works. So I don't know if you could just talk a little bit more. And it's hard to, I mean, on one level, it's easy to understand, but it's not always easy to understand that whole process and what it's like on the other side, even though there's glimpses of it, if that makes any sense.
Well, there's a lot in what you just said, Jane. I don't know quite. I'm just trying to think about where I want to start there. I mean, the process, the thinking is the problem. And I'm not speaking to you, just you, Jane. You already know all this, right? But the thinking, there's a difference between thinking about something and wishing about and ruminating and contemplating. There's a big difference. Contemplating is a sitting quietly, opening to receive. Thinking is an engagement of the mind with all things. But contemplation, very, very different. Contemplation is more akin to what we did today in our meditation. That is contemplation. It's about resting in your essence. And that's the practice. The practice is to learn to always rest in your essence. I like to refer to this essence as the witness. It's very practical. We are always witnessing. We are always the knower. Irrefutably. There's never any question in our mind. So we're already starting from a very firm ground. And this is important. Always try to find the firm ground that you can start from. Good foundation. The witness That's the substratum of everything. So that's the root of contemplation, which then, as when we get into some of this discussion, this is part of what I want to share with you in Patanjali. You take that contemplation and you evolve that through the process of samyama into nothing but completely non-dual awareness, which is what we call samadhi. That is the state of a siddha. They move in the world with the awareness. Nothing but, there is nothing but the awareness of the Supreme Shakti driving everything. And that Supreme Shakti is you. That starts with contemplation. Very, very different from ruminating or figuring out or doing whatever. It's not a thinking process. It's a heart process. The process of contemplation is a heart process. Like chanting. Chanting, we don't chant with our mind. We chant with our heart. And that is the transformative power. Anytime you can find the seat in your heart, the seat of awareness in your heart, you are in direct contact with Source. One of the most powerful ways that we do that is with mantra. And there are many ways to use mantra. See, I think Bobby even said that here. Make sure here. Yeah, there it is. It's right at the end of his commentary. He said, as soon as the grace of Kundalini Shakti, Shiva's Shakti, unfolds completely, Shiva once again experiences himself as Shiva, and the bound individual becomes the Supreme Lord. In the heart, Baba says, in the heart, the awareness, I am imperfect, dissolves into I am perfect. This is the state of one who is liberated while living, one who reveals unceasingly, revels unceasingly in the awareness, I am Shiva. So again, just that one subtle reference to the heart space this is where the action is. This is where the action is. Now, just to be clear about that, another point, we're talking about localized awareness now, the individuated awareness of ourself. The heart space is a very, very powerful loci, for sure. In fact, much of the deepest insights of the highest forms of meditation and samadhi, the ultimate goal, are all based on stabilizing awareness in the heart space. Having said that, the space between the eyes, which we call the Ajna chakra, is also an extremely powerful place to awaken the Shakti. For many years, I repeated the mantra right there between the eyes. That was my focal point for many, many years. And it was a very powerful meditation. It brought power. It really raised the Shakti level. And it also empowers the intellect and the mind to extremely high levels of creativity and insight. And as I've mentioned, Bhagwan Nityananda said that there are two places to awaken the Kundalini, or there are two places where the Kundalini is awakened. Again, he's primarily focusing on that central channel. And of course, the base chakra, the Muladhara chakra, classically as the seat of Kundalini. But for those yogis who are more evolved, the throat and the 7 chakras above the throat is where all the action is. So, and he's not the only one that has referred to this, the chakras above the throat. But I mentioned Bhagwan because he specifically focused on it and said it. And he's, part of our lineage, but it's corroborated by others that are working at the very highest levels of meditation and integration. So where you put your attention, you are increasing your energy. Energy flows where attention goes. So that is an important aspect of the process. But you have to be kind to yourself again, and don't be obsessed. Don't be obsessed with your capability at this point. It's not about that. Nicholas's sharing is very much indicative. Karuna's sharing is very much indicative of the authentic process. And to embrace what is actually happening. The movement of the Shakti that is actually happening in your experience. This is the most powerful thing that you can do. This is the most powerful and direct path. To be wishing and hoping and out there, no. That will do nothing for you in terms of move you through and awaken your soul. Being completely clear and comfortable and fully accepting exactly where you are is a very, very powerful place to be. And as we mentioned in previous discussions, you will continue to raise the baseline as you continue to practice. This is absolutely inevitable. On this path, this is the path of Guru's grace. You can call it anything you want, but it's God's grace. God, Guru, we're not talking about any kind of iconography or human beings or anything like that. We're talking about the Guru. The Guru is pure awareness. It's your soul. On this path, it's all about the Guru's grace. The only way that you can draw that Guru's grace is through love and devotion and complete opening. That's the only task that we have. Always remain open. You will experience grace. Grace is not always a walk in the garden. Grace can be pretty thorny sometimes. But that is legitimately grace. If you have the right understanding, which is that every single circumstance is an opportunity for growth, for further release and expansion. This is the ultimate right understanding. And you will be the happiest person in the whole world, no matter what happens outside. Doesn't matter. Just do what you do. And do it fully and completely with joy, peace. That's it. That's the path. That's the simple path. Michael, are you going to say something or not?
Yeah, I want to try to synthesize this or understand this out loud, kind of in light of, I came in a little bit. I wasn't so much late, but I had to come in on my phone because I was delayed. I had to pay a visit to somebody in the hospital today.
There you go.
And it's an older man who until recently was pretty healthy, and shit happens, and one thing after another, and he's definitely on a downward trajectory. And I mean, it's not going to have a happy ending. But one of his big problems right now, and this is, an educated person. He was a psychiatrist for the VA for most of his career. He's a aware and knowing kind of person. And I think part of the physical stuff he's going through is he had, a quote unquote minor stroke, which, I've come to believe that kind of stroke doesn't really exist. They're all major.
Exactly.
But he's experiencing, for no rational reason, he's experiencing moments of severe anxiety and panic.
Mm.
And being, a psychologically astute person, and he's not used to it. He's never felt it before. So it's not only that he's experiencing this anxiety or this panic even, it's that he's experiencing anxiety and panic about feeling anxiety and panic. Right? Which, I see a lot, in myself and other people too, it's enough, you worry about yourself, you have a sore throat, but then you're worried about being worried about having your sore throat. And, it gets worse and worse. And, and I'm standing there and I'm trying to, say what I can say, and I'm trying to understand what I can understand, and trying to project whatever kind of understanding and compassion that I have. And it's like you said about just a minute ago about not wishing and wanting, but sort of being right there in the moment. And he's afraid, I think, and his wife who was there is afraid that this is never going to change. You're never going to stop. But what I've learned from you, from all of you, to see, it always changes. It may not change for the better necessarily in an objective standpoint, but nothing ever stays exactly the same. And their relief for this moment will be the next moment. And again, that next moment might be better or it might be worse, but it's going to be different. And again, so we came into this discussion here about every moment being perfect in some sense, and being able to rest in that moment, or being able to accept where you are. And I'm trying to kind of synthesize and understand this in this way. I mean, I think it's true. It's not so much that I'm struggling with it, but it's a very beautiful light onto the situation.
Yes. I mean, you have more?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, yeah, the key piece here, this is a fundamental basic understanding. Everything changes, always. Everything will change. There's nothing that will not change. And then we have to look at, are we placing good, bad labels on that? Or are we just being present and accepting what is? It's not good or bad, it's just what is. And this is not, of course, something you're going to be able to share with him, but your mere presence there, if you were present, not in your mind, but in your heart, is the most powerful thing that you can do for him. And he may not recognize that or understand that in the moment, but he will receive the transmission. And if you get another opportunity, it sounds like you probably will. If you actually get a chance to actually touch his body, hold his hand, not with mind chatter, but with presence. And that will be the most powerful and enduring gift that you could give that man. If you go in there with established in your state of presence, and then you can sit with him quietly. You don't have to call it a meditation or anything like that. No, just ask him to be still, or however you want to say it. Just relax. Just relax. Do we have a problem? This is an interesting way. Do we have a problem right now? No, not yesterday, not today, not in a few minutes. Right now. Is there any problem right now? You're sitting, you're lying, you're breathing, you're alive, everything's beautiful. Is there a problem right now? There's no problem. And now you just open yourself to extending that moment, the now of no problem. If a problem arises, then you deal with it. If no problem arises, you remain focused on the present moment. Simple. But that's it. You have the capability. We all, everyone in this Sangha, your Kundalini is awakened. You're transmitting. You're transmitting at all times. The more elevated your connection is, the more powerful your transmission is. And it will affect others. It will affect others. It does affect others in every moment. Your whole environment, whether it's anybody, any sentient beings or not in your environment is being affected by your presence. And you're elevating it. That's the most powerful contribution you can make to humanity. That is the ultimate service to humanity. Do you want to say any more, Michael? I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but I don't want you to be hanging.
No, it's very helpful and interesting, and the whole, for all of us, always the whole universe has conspired to put us exactly where we are.
Yeah.
And it's going to do with us what it's going to do with us in the next minute. And learning to keep that in mind is the whole trick.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. You got it, man. Yeah, you got it. You all got it. You all got it. So we've had a wonderful 2 hours together. I want to say thank you all again for the beautiful unfoldment. Jane, I will address the malas for you next time.
Okay, thanks.
How about that? Yeah,
I feel better.
Yeah.
Sending you lots of nourishing thoughts.
Yes, I will. Absolutely. That was what the whole thing, I took the most important first, and we'll break out the malas, no problem. We can talk about that next time. So you all have a wonderful weekend and next couple of weeks. And thank you all for sending me love. If you didn't, you can. I appreciate you all in every way so much. Much love, deep respect. Thank you so much.